All right, guys, I can't believe it. We're in season 2. If you stuck with us and listened to season 1 and you're actually here for more, thank you. We can't believe that because we are really enjoying rambling. I am Dr. Callie Hale.
And I'm Dr. Kyle Hale, and I am Rambler in Chief, just in case anyone was wondering.
I know. Yeah. But we're so excited to be back and talking more. It's been a few weeks since he and I have recorded as we were finishing up season 1. And I reminded him that one of my big soapboxes and one of my big rants is the difference in airway-centered dentistry and traditional orthodontics or cosmetic orthodontics. And I think it's about time that we got to rant about that and talk about how to do phase 1 with systemic health in mind and sleep in mind.
Yes. So,
AKA do it right.
Do it right. Right for the patient, not right for you because it's the fewest number of appointments in your chair.
Oh, Kyle.
Sorry.
Guys, I feel like we should have like a big disclaimer on this one.
Yeah. What's the disclaimer? I'm right.
The disclaimer, no.
Oh, you're right.
Is a lot of people want to know my honest, unfiltered, raw opinion. And they usually get it when it's one-on-one in the dental chair or if I'm on stage showing before and after expansion. So now you guys can have it too. And please don't figure out where I live and stalk me and try to hurt me after we talk about this.
Well, I think what you're going to talk about is years of experience across hundreds of cases in Lee City, Texas. And what that is anecdotal.
Totally anecdotal. So,
but what is an anecdote? I have a friend, good friend, Alistair McDonald, would call it an anecdote. Early evidence.
I love that.
And so,
well, I can't even take it as early. I mean, it is early evidence, like for me personally, but the people I learned it from have been doing it longer than I've even been practicing. So this is not new.
And how shameful is that?
Totally.
Like we're
but don't even
50 years into early evidence.
Oh gosh. Well, an article that I just wrote, I say we've been doing it wrong for a century. But you just have to be careful because I start writing stuff like that and then little things get picked apart. And I think I do have a lot of grace and patience and care about all of my wonderful colleagues that, a lot of us do ortho, right? But there really truly is a difference in my education with what we can do with myofunctional therapy, tongue ties, tongue positionings, expansion, but it has to do with why is it different? Why are we different? Why are the airway dentists in our group, how are they doing things differently? And why are people coming to see me from out of state, for goodness sake? And like we had a family today that drove in from San Angelo, which is 7+ hours. Yeah. Because these parents just want their kid taken care of, period. They don't want what we've always done. You always do what you always did. You're always going to get what you always got. And we have a population that is absolutely plagued with sleep disorder breathing, underdeveloped arches. And we could have made a huge difference in years in my generation had our ortho been done right. And it wasn't. But we're like 7 generations in of, underdeveloped arches and damage. So my goals, just for my patients that are listening, if I take on care with your child, is that your child is a fully formed upper lower jaw, room for all 32 teeth. We usually say 28 teeth, but if we can get the wisdom teeth in too, I will be so happy. I never guarantee that, obviously. But the earlier you start, the better. And we just have to do better. It's time to start doing it right. And it's time to start talking about it loud enough that we make people upset, because I'm sure this episode is going to make people upset. Because when we started doing this, I danced around the topic of like bicuspid extraction and mandibular expansion. And I really had a lot of like, oh, well, I know it's probably just like all they knew how to do. And then as you and I were talking about on the teaser, listening to how much evidence we have, the century of evidence that we have in the anthropology studies and all the stuff that we already should be doing, I don't really have any patience for us doing it wrong anymore. And I found out last week a patient of ours here had their bicuspids extracted by an orthodontist in an adjacent city, very close to us. And livid doesn't even cover the emotions that I felt, because this was a very simple case. I went back and reviewed it. They anyways, very upsetting to me. So we just have to stop doing it wrong and start doing it right, and make sure that these parents and these kids have all the information they need to make the best decision for that child.
Okay, that's it. We'll see you for deeper
No,
episode.
I'm not done.
So I'm a huge fan of this because, and this being being noisy about something, because what is the best chance of anyone else in dental school hearing about any form of orthodontic prevention? Which, when I say orthodontic prevention, I'm talking about things leading up to you having being an adult with all your teeth. Because I believe 99.9% of orthodontics, 99.9% of metal brackets, 99.9% of plastic going on teeth with composite buttons are cosmetic only. And the outcome is cosmetic driven. And the patient is sold for a cosmetic reason. So if you're doing cosmetic ortho, you're doing your patient's chief complaint. I don't think you're doing any harm to anybody, because unless you've seen this
I don't
info,
care what you do as an adult. Now you're getting me fired up again. I completely agree with you.
But I'm speaking to the dentist. The dentist is out there. This is just like us finding out something. Like you find out you're not supposed to be using this material because it's causing harm to your patient. You stop using the material. Mm-hmm. You don't say, well, I've used it for 30 years. It's been fine in my hands, when half your patients.
Oh, well, that's what they're going to say.
That's so stupid. But dentists are beautifully dumb in that regard. Is that they will do something for a long time and think that it works when usually that it's worked by geographic relocation. That's your success measure, because the patient didn't come there anymore. Right. So, and I have good evidence for that on the practice analytics side, because attrition in a dental office is much higher than people think it is. So
that's so true.
Because you can look at attrition.
You guys don't know what that means is like how
long will a patient come see you?
Right.
How many years will they be coming back to your office? Less than 60% will be there in 3 years. In most dental practices, that's the turnover. So you think your fillings are lasting 25 years because you haven't seen that patient from 22 years ago?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, you're. Anyways,
I do have people that have come to see me for more than those years in a row, and I know that my dad did too. But we're just talking in a general sense.
We're talking generally, and because I don't want anyone that hears this to think I'm just going to turn the off right now.
Ooh, we are going to have to bleep him. Well, exactly.
Turn this stuff off right now.
I've already done this. Like, everybody's fine. What are they talking about?
Yeah.
But the fact is we don't know that these patients are fine, and those patients aren't going back to you to find out that they're not fine. They're ending up in my chair, okay, or a sleep physician's chair, or they've had a heart attack.
Well, what happens is they do their cosmetic orthodontics, and then they get diagnosed with some kind of
TMD
sleep disorder.
Right. And they're not connecting.
And then they start grinding their teeth.
Right.
This is the life cycle. And it's a beautiful circle. Is you have underdeveloped arches, you turn into an adult, and it starts increasing your risk for cardiovascular disease or stroke or something real that's touchable. And you're bruxing in there somewhere. And then you start grinding your teeth, because we know that bruxism is a protective mechanism for patients with OSA. Right. Because patients who don't have OSA don't grind their teeth. And so that circle is teeth destruction. Okay, now we're going to make it worse by putting an oral appliance in, like a night guard. It's just going to take up that room for those mouth breathers. And also, yeah. And then the night guard discussion is could be a whole different topic on its own. But I tell all the dentists that I'm training, like, if you have a bruxer, do not go collect that $600 for an acrylic night guard until you've done a sleep study first. Because you show me a bruxer, I'm going to show you somebody with sleep apnea every single time. Yeah. Every single time. Yeah. Literally, we have never not caught sleep apnea in somebody who grinds their teeth ever. Of course, that's anecdotal / early evidence, because it's just me, right? But I'm just saying, at what point are we going to stop pretending like our head is not connected to the rest of us? That whatever you guys put in their mouth, whatever kind of ortho you do, whatever kind of appliances you can't put that in their mouth and think that it's not going to affect them down the line. That's what's different here. That's what's different with your mentors and the other doctors doing airway-centered orthodontics is the orthodontic, or expansion orthodontics. Expansion orthodontics says we want the teeth to be further away from the throat, not closer to it. Right? You want forward movement of the teeth. Wide
Yeah.
And there was an orthodontist speaking at the convention we went to 2 weeks ago. He was from like the North Seattle area in Washington. And he talked about the headgear effect and that pull effect of pulling everything back, being retractive,
which is what I had
backwards,
being
damaging. And he lost his faculty position in his, he was faculty in a residency. He lost that position because he stood up for what was right. Right. Because he says, hey, I'm seeing this and it's leading to this.
And so we should stop doing headgear.
We should just eliminate headgear and anything that's causing headgear.
And they fired him.
Said later.
Yeah. So I'm telling you guys, when y'all all ask me in the chair, why are we not all doing this? And I say politics, I truly mean politics at the highest level of orthodontic training. Mm-hmm. Well, now easy. I have so many, I know a lot of orthodontists that do airway the right way, like adult expansion. And they went through the Vivos training and they're the best, most open-minded. I would refer to them any day. And I had one come up to me one time after he hadn't been trained in it yet, but he was absolutely in his 70s. And he listened to me at the summit in Denver, and he came up to me afterwards, and he was just like, I didn't know he was an orthodontist at the time. I had a bunch of people that ran up and wanted to ask me questions, and he just said, "What do you mean you're expanding the lower?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's a tooth-borne expander," and I was getting like, I don't understand what you're saying. And he, where does it sit? And I said, well, it's tooth-borne. It's on the permanent first molars and it goes around the ling. And I finally just realized, like, it was like we were speaking two different languages. And I said, do you want me to show you a picture of it? And he was like, yeah. And so I Googled a picture of it on my phone really quick and it just popped up. You go to any ortho labs websites and you'll see like, and he pulled his iPhone out and took a picture of my phone. And then later I found out, that he'd spent his whole career doing ortho and he was the sweetest guy. It's just what was never presented to him to unravel that severe of crowding. So there's a lot you can do if the arches are semi-developed well, but when you guys see some of the cases I have where you would look at it and feel like there's no chance they would ever be normal. Like their teeth are so bad they would never be normal. But if you don't have the lower in your toolkit, then you're never going to be able to do it without extracting teeth. And so when we get back to the bicuspid extraction situation, I am so angry about it because now, having seen the kids that we've saved from that, we have to stop acting like our teeth are accessory bones. Like we can't just be like, yeah, we're just going to pop those out of there. You don't need them anyway. And the parents don't know. That is the problem, is the parents literally, we're the expert, right? That orthodontic, they're paying $6,000 for braces. Whatever you say, you're the expert. Now, the thing is, I have plenty of patients that they wouldn't just take that first consult and go with it, right? Mm-hmm. But for the ones that do, it just kills me because we don't ever have to do that. You also don't ever need to do IPR. Now I'm talking your traditional underdeveloped class 2, class 1. I'm not talking about not doing IPR in a class 3 surgical. You guys are going to find something in this to tell me why I'm crazy, but I'm not. I'm talking about retractive ortho. We cannot be doing. Yeah, I saw your face. I am not crazy. We have to stop doing retractive ortho. I had headgear and a lip bumper. So in the 90s, I had a band on each molar and a big old metal wire that went around my front teeth. And I had a lip and headgear. So they were getting my lip off of my teeth in the front to help my lowers come forward. And there are pictures of me, even Kyle won't see. And we've been together since I was 15 years old. So I had crazy amount of ortho. And when they took it off, my teeth weren't straight. The orthodontist was upset because my parents told him he couldn't take out my bicuspids on top. So I'm so thankful they didn't do that. And they even say, we don't know why. We just didn't want you to lose your teeth. So we just told him no. So I was 14 and I got my braces off and my front teeth weren't straight. It was really not a fun day, especially with all the headgear and everything I had done. But I had developed clicking. So I had I just said clicking my right condyle. Very simple, just reducing displacement. And when I was in dental school, they were like, oh yeah, does it hurt? I'm like, no. They're like, well, you're one of the lucky ones. There's nothing you can do about it. And that was just that's literally the extent of the TMD information I got for my own joint. Well, you click, just what it is. So then when I was in dental school, I went back into braces in the ortho residency program. A really awesome orthodontic resident did it for me. but I still didn't know anything. And I let them do interproximal reduction, which is IPR, which is removal of enamel in between the teeth to allow more retraction. Okay. So if the teeth are too big and they don't fit because your arches are not wide enough, we're going to have to do things to make things fit. Right. And so they did it all across my front teeth, upper and lower. I actually had forgotten how many places I had it until I did my own expansion. And then I started seeing a little bit of spacing, but I did that and got my tongue tie fixed by the amazing Dr. Rachel Garrett, and my clicking went away.
That's crazy.
So you can, and I had a lot of my airway colleagues were like, yeah, man, just expand and you're clicking away. And I'm like, what, should we get a billboard? Does your jaw click? Now, of course I don't promise everybody I'm going to cure your clicking when you do expansion, but it was like crazy for me being young. I'm still young. I'm in 30s, even though turned 37 yesterday. That we really could fix it. Otherwise I would have just stuck with what I had and not known any different. So it's nice to not have that jaw problem. So those are the kind of things that where we just have to realize that you should get a second opinion. Even if you come and see me and you think you have more questions, go get a second opinion. Like, don't take the first one if you're not really confident in that provider. Because I mean, I talked with a mom who was literally just sobbing because the bicuspids had just freshly been removed. And that's a hard conversation. I mean, we can fix it, but we're probably putting implants in those spaces where they had teeth, you know, and it just broke my heart for her. And so we just have to do things differently because we don't have a healthy society. So the idea that we can just keep doing what we're doing really doesn't work anymore anyway. And that can be in any facet of medicine, health, nutrition, food, all of that. So I don't want to hear anymore the old guys saying like, oh no, we're just fine. We'll just keep it in an amalgam, or it's just fine. It's fine. Like, it's not fine because we're not healthy. Yeah. And our kids aren't healthy, and our kids are massively medicated, and we need to stop medicating them because they're tired.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the difference. And when you come and see us in one of our locations, that's what you're getting. And for any parents listening to this, any dentists listening to this, it is such a fun part of dentistry to do this. So you should do it, and you should screen for it, and then she'd fix it correctly.
Yeah. So when you talking about fixing it, and I did give you a hard time in front of Dr. Simmons and Dr. Rowan at the meeting we had a couple of weeks ago because they've been doing this for a lot longer than you have, and they are physicians doing this. And I try to find a way to help you feel better because any case you have that does not, you don't hit it out of the park. you literally will sob, like not sob, but it'll get you down. Your day will kind of be have a cloud over it. And you really take all those things personally. That is one of the best character traits about you is your lion heart. I believe that. And so one thing that I think is different is that you're getting out of the dentist and you're getting into that part of healthcare that is more variable with its outcomes because we cannot control. It was
hard. It was a hard thing to
anything the patient does when they leave. And so we know that the method works. It doesn't work perfectly for everyone or for anyone, but so everyone is going to fall onto a bell curve probably. But what really helps are parents who are really excited for the outcome too. And this is not you start this on a 12-year-old. It took 12 years to get that bad or to that phase. And now they're on stimulants in the form of, methamphetamines for their ADHD. And so you're going to try to help expand. You're going to try to help work with their physician to, make sure that they're still on the right medication. And that doesn't always happen.
Right.
But it does a lot of the time, and I think being able to take any kid off of medication, being able to take any kid from bedwetting to not bedwetting, being able to take any kid from
it's a win. I know. You're right.
Is the win.
I know.
And I'll tell you what, guys,
right often.
For I think, I don't know. I don't think we've gone a single month where we haven't had some crazy huge win in the office on the patient side. You know, like,
no, you're right.
A mom comes in, brings, 3 boxes of Shipley's donuts and says, my kid has been in the same school for 2 consecutive semesters. Thank you, Callie Hale. I know. And then the next day, some kids' expanders popped off 5 times because they eat rocks for breakfast, apparently. And it's a frustrated parent, which we understand. But now we're on to the most recent painful memory. We're not on to the
and I think
bigger
that's how
mission
dentists naturally work.
That is a dentist.
We should probably talk more about that. You've probably had more exposure to that and helpful tips and stuff to share with people because of your relationship with Alistair and what you've learned in Mark's group. But it was for me, when I was finishing the Mastery series, there was this one doctor, I don't remember his name, talking about, this is through the American Academy of Dental Sleep Medicine, who was talking about how dentists we have these like super unrealistic expectations for the sleep cases, which I did just post a video. I don't know if you saw it yet on my Airway Center Dentistry page, talking about setting patient expectations and what it's like for us on our level. But in that, he talked about how, we're trained to like, quarter of millimeter measurements, like the neurotic, oh, my gum is a little higher right here, that, like we're like trained to, everything has to be perfect. Your crown margins have to seat perfectly every time. You would never glue one on if it wasn't perfect.
With your fillings, take x-rays.
And your fillings,
sure
you take
perfect.
x-rays. Right. And so we aren't used to, I mean, the dentists that care anyway, aren't used to, what do you mean my filling fell out? My fillings don't fall out. My fillings don't fall out, but I'm just like, my fillings don't fall out. Like what? And then if a little kid's filling popped out that I did or something, I was like, well, that's not normal. No, wait. But with sleep medicine, it's different. You're not going to get everybody's apnea hypopnea index to 0. You're absolutely not. So if you're going into it expecting that, like, get ready for disappointment. Mm-hmm. But that was hard for me because I don't think in my original training that I was really set up for that, right? Like, so I'm looking at all these numbers going, what am I doing wrong? And then when I finally realized that with oral appliance therapy, the AADSM tries to give dentists like some generalized guidelines. Like if you can get the AHI dropped in half with an oral appliance therapy, like pat yourself on the back. That's huge. But again, it always depends on how high it was when you started. So, or the goal is get it below 5. And even the doctors training on that laugh. They're like, okay, good luck getting everybody below 5 with a mandibular advancement device. So hearing that for me was so critical and essential that I've instilled it now in as many of the doctors that I mentor as possible, because it's you leave with, you see these sleep studies or these titrations, and if they're not 0 or like you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, like I failed. And no, you didn't. Like I implore a lot of you, the next titration study you do, look at the ODI and look at the lowest oxygen. Like what you're going to see is, oh, well, they never dropped below 95. That's amazing. They were never in that, anyways. Yeah. So, yeah.
So I think the point I was trying to make is we're talking about here cosmetic orthodontics not being, traditional orthodontics synonymous with cosmetic orthodontics today, and the need for expansion orthodontics to take, a majority of the to be what we're doing. But anyone getting into expansion orthodontics is not in for a world of easy sailing. They're just,
oh my gosh,
like in a world where we have 9 associates,
oh my God.
Half of them are doing
hard.
airway centered orthodontics or expansion orthodontics, right. You being the chief there. This is the patient expectations are everything in ortho, everything in cosmetic, anything. And so, because you're trying to tell the patient what it's going to look like in the end. And when you're trying to talk to an expansion patient, an airway patient, someone coming in symptom-based, and their dentist or their physician has said, go get an MAD or go talk to your dentist about this. Now the pressure's really on. And I think this is what's going to be, I'm going to rub my crystal ball. Where's my crystal ball? I'm going to rub it. And I'm going to say that this is what's going to prevent dentists from doing airway, is the early failures and the feeling like it's an overwhelming failure.
Absolutely.
Because they'll do 150 fillings in a month. They'll do 75 crowns in a month. And 2 years later, when they see the exact same patient, that crown and those fillings are going to look the exact same. The patient's not going to remember having the procedure. The patient's not going to remember that it had any bad memories at all. But you will still be in treatment if you're in expansion orthodontics at 2 years. So,
well, not always.
Not always, but
definitely within a year. Definitely within a year. And so, yeah, for sure. And so I think we do need to, at some point, have like a kind of a bonus episode or a side talk about setting patient expectations, because like I said, I did that Instagram video on it and I got a lot of feedback from that. Like, I'm so glad you're talking about this, because we all show our wins all the time.
Yeah.
And we show, and what I was talking about was, it was not my patient, but somebody did a blog post about how expansion didn't cure their sleep apnea. And it was this whole big kind of, everything was in a negative light. And so I talked about what it was like for me to hear that blog post. Unfortunately, checked my phone at 5 o'clock in the morning. So it was the first thing I started my day with. And my own personal tabulation of that emotion when I was driving to work. And so I finally just put our amazing videographer, in a room, and I was like, I got to talk about this. And we recorded that a while back. We recorded that right after I did my tongue frenectomy, actually. So 3-4 months ago. And we finally got it edited and put on. And it just came at the right time, I think, because a lot of people have, even patients that saw it DM'd me and said, nobody expects all this to be perfect. Like, thank you for just doing this, you know? And that's not something that I think my personality naturally is. If I have one failure, then they all failed. Right. And it was just dumb. I know that's not true. I don't need hugs and kisses. Like I know that, but it's just something that I internalize because I want everything to be so incredibly successful for my patients. But that just comes with its own challenges for me, personally. So
that's the dentist. And I really think the reason it has taken so long is probably because of this. Like, why is this not catching on? Because it's not easy. What's easy is pull so many teeth that you make it hard to mess up the ortho. That's what's easy. Pull 4 teeth and be like, oh my gosh, I worked so hard. No one sees the orthodontist when they go to the orthodontist anymore for their checkup. You see the assistant. Why? Because it's easy.
Well, don't even get me started on the assistant that took the brackets off and the glue off of one of my patient's teeth and took half the enamel with it. Looked like a veneer prep. I had to call the mom and I said, look, I don't know what happened. And she was, well, they wouldn't let me back there, so I don't know who took them off. And I'm like, well,
that could be anyone, dentist, or they're not out there to win.
We found out it was their assistant, but.
So I think we'll wrap this up, but I think it's an important soapbox, and the soapbox being the need for expansion orthodontics over cosmetic orthodontics. And if you're a dentist doing cosmetic orthodontics, because that's what your patients want, no foul.
Literally, especially with adults. I will agree with what he said when you're talking about adults.
Well, a kid does not knock on your door at 7 years old and said, I really want straight teeth for my beauty pageant.
Kyle, people.
Please tell me it's not true.
Absolutely. We are doing things sometimes early.
That's a sign of the apocalypse.
We're doing things early incorrectly. 100% we are. But I'm just saying, like, what, and I will agree with you, whatever you want to do as an adult, I literally don't care. Like, you are an adult, you can make that decision. Yeah. These kids don't have a say.
The kids, yeah.
So that's the part I don't have any patience for. So get a second opinion from an airway center dentist, either one who has gone through Airway Health Solutions or Vivos, before you have any of your kids' teeth pulled for braces.
We should be trying to do all ortho without pulling teeth.
And IPR.
So, if you want to send your hate mail,
we're saying it out loud
to Canada.
Yeah, any hate mail, please don't find me. I will. Yeah. It won't make my day.
Yeah. I don't have any final comments except for that. I think what you do is fantastic for our patients, for your patients, for the community. I think it'd be so cool if I think generationally for your patients, this will have a lasting impact, not just on the ones that you're treating now, but their kids too, because this is going to get passed on to them, this knowledge. So, all right, well, that's it. Join us for episode 2. It's going to come out as soon as we record it and edit it, obviously.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
What are we going to talk about?
What are we going to talk about? Are you kidding me? This recording. Is the Sleep Well journey, Callie.
2 seconds.
Which is... Oh, wait.
Hi.
Should we start this episode?
Yeah.
All right.
Me first.
You first.
Just kidding.
Welcome.
You're getting lots of bloopers. We love you. Thank you for everything.